What's up, guys, and welcome back to Beyond the Void Horror Podcast. My name is Alex, and today we're going to be talking about episode 3 of the Creepshow Shudder TV series. Now, as you may have heard me say last week, we're going to be doing these as spoiler reviews from here on out. So this is really just a kind of a nice place to come when you've watched the episode and want to find out more information about the show, who did it, and what my thoughts are on it. Because it's a little too short to really do a spoiler-free review on each of these. I think the first segment was like really small, so it was only like 10 minutes long or something like that. So we'll start it off with the first segment. The first one was called All Hallows Eve. It was written by Bruce Jones, who is actually a writer, novelist, illustrator for comic books. He's done Conan the Barbarian, The Incredible Hulk from like 2001 to 2005. Plus, he also did the Warren Publishing comics called Creepy and Eerie back in the day. They were like black and white horror comics. And he also did Pacific Comics' Twisted Tales and Alien Worlds, which this feels like his wheelhouse with Creepshow, so he fits right in. It's also directed by John Harrison, who is no stranger to Tales from the Dark Side TV series. He wrote and directed a lot of those, and the movie, so he's no stranger to this either. Now, the story for All Hallows Eve is actually about a group of kids called the Golden Dragon Club. It is a little bit of a typical story, in my opinion. I feel like it was just kind of so straight-laced, and I don't know if it's maybe borrowed from some old story, but it does feel very typical, unfortunately. Which, you know, some of the classics are kind of that way. The twist in this didn't really satiate any of my interest, although it was kind of obvious to know what was happening in the episode right off the bat. A group of kids are out trick-or-treating, treating adults like shit when they're like asking for candy. Like, is that all you got? Better have something better for us. And people are like crying, like grown adults talking about missing kids and all this other stuff. So you come to the conclusion rather quickly, or at least I did, that these kids are already dead and they're coming back for some sort of retribution. And in fact, that's what it was. This episode as a whole, not just this segment, but both segments, are definitely taking a step back from the gore aspect and more about the storytelling. But this segment in particular had a couple of scenes that were okay. These kids, of course, were killed in a treehouse burning that was supposed to be a prank, and it went wrong and killed them all, which I'm like, wait a second, a prank of burning a treehouse down with them inside? How is that a prank? But they get their comeuppance, and of course, burn every single one of the people alive every year. I don't know why it took them so long to go back and like keep getting these kids. They could have gotten them all. I guess it just one of those stories. Personally, I'm not too fond of this one. If I had to score just this segment alone, I would probably give it like maybe a 5. It's pretty average. It was still enjoyable, but it was super short. I didn't look at the time, but it felt like it was like 10 minutes long. So the next segment must have been much longer. Speaking of the next segment, segment 2, or story 2, is called The Man in the Suitcase, which was actually written by Christopher Buehlin and directed by David Bruckner. Christopher Buehlin actually has no real writing credits other than one up now, so he's actually fresh and new. And to be honest, I actually like the writing in this a lot. And David Bruckner, I always love talking about David Bruckner because, one, not only is he the director of the movie The Ritual that was out on Netflix, he's done shorts in VHS and Southbound, which are both really good anthologies, but he also did one of my favorite movies, which I always talk about on this show, The Signal. So any chance I got to talk about it, I'm going to fucking pump that fucking movie. But David Bruckner has definitely done many stories that are very similar. The perfect pairing of Christopher Buehlin and David Bruckner, they worked really well together in this. I think they both really grasped the concept. So what's the story about this one? Well, a kid who is traveling apparently to get money from his parents gets his suitcase late at the airport, coming home in his new apartment that he's barely able to afford. His girlfriend is breaking up with him because he has absolutely no motivation whatsoever in life. His roommate is kind of a jerk, but this suitcase that he takes home all of a sudden starts talking. And he's like,
"What the hell, man?"
Thinks it's his roommate at first, but when he opens it up, he finds a man crushed inside of this suitcase. It's kind of funny. Like, it's not necessarily a scary episode or segment or story, but it is actually a pretty entertaining one for me. I had a really good time with the Man in the Suitcase segment. A lot. And for people like me who have been into like Tales from the Dark Side, Monsters, all these different short little stories, you always had a few that were like, but there was always those few that were really funny, and this one was one of those that I really enjoyed. Essentially what happens is this guy in the suitcase, this man in the suitcase, any pain that he has makes him pop out gold coins from his mouth. And the kid tries to help this guy out of the suitcase and notices that a coin popped out. He zips it back up, doesn't help the guy, goes to a coin dealer, and actually says, how much is it worth? Probably could have gotten about $3.50 for it, as his friend said. Tells his friend the story, and his girlfriend ends up showing up at the house thinking he killed somebody because she sees a hand hanging out of the suitcase. They go from scared that he killed somebody to kicking the fucking suitcase down the stairs so that he'll spit out more coins. And boy, was there just a ton that just spill out, which just made me laugh. And then it's like, boom, time for a montage, playing some music, some fun, happy time music. And they're showing all these different ways that they're trying to hurt this guy in a like really fun and jovial way. I really enjoyed it. As far as the twist on this, of course, there's a twist usually, although the first segment, but this one, you find out after they push it too far, and the main actor who brought the suitcase home is like, wait, guys, we really need to stop. We said we were going to just torture him for 48 hours. They've got buckets of fucking gold on the side. And I gotta say, like, I would be pretty fucking tempted to fucking torture and throw a guy down the stairs for gold coins too. But yeah, it would be short-lived. And I don't know that I would actually do that because it's kind of sick. It's funny though, because in this segment, like the kid who's he's like, guys, we got to stop. We've gone too far. He's like, don't you want a boat? No, I don't want to live with that for the rest of my life. Gets hit in the head by his friends who've obviously been cheating on him behind his back. Rolls down the stairs. You think he's dead. And then they go back into the room to torture the guy in the suitcase, the man in the suitcase. He starts laughing and his eyes start glowing. And he, of course, turns into a genie, which they had a nod to this, if you guys remember. In the beginning of this segment, he's watching TV, he's like watching porn, and then he sees a cartoon where a guy is rubbing a genie lamp and a genie comes out. Clearly, we're dealing with a genie in the bottle situation, or rather in this case, a man in the suitcase. But the creature on that was fucking awesome. Like, I loved it. I thought it was great. How the effects that they did to make it come to life, and as he's like, kind of like, ha 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 ha. I thought it was cool. And then, of course, he lays down 2 suitcases. The kids that tried to kill their friend and were too greedy, they basically go into the suitcase. And the guy that was in the suitcase is now dragging like 20-some suitcases to the airport. And he's like, can you help me take care of all these baggages? And they're like, for a customer just like you, of course we can. And you hear him screaming like, I've been seeing a lot of people on both sides of the fence here. Like, some people are really enjoying the spirit of it, which is me personally. And some of them are want a certain thing from each and every one of the episodes, which is fair. But I think this episode, not being so graphic, might have a few of us horror hounds out there a little dissatisfied. But honestly, I think that the second segment, The Man in the Suitcase, really brought it forward as far as storytelling, direction, and writing. I think You guys nailed it on this particular segment. Unfortunately, the first segment was not for me. If I had to score this episode all together, I'd probably say a 7 just because of the first segment. But that last segment was like a 9 for me. And I don't know. So it's very difficult. 7 or 8, like somewhere 7.5. I don't know. Why are you pressuring me? But yeah, I enjoyed it. What did you guys think? Did you enjoy that? Are you a fan of the people that worked on the films? You have to admit that they're bringing in a breadth of talent of people who've been doing this stuff for a long time and who have done really well at it, in my opinion. Don't forget to watch The Signal from 2007. It's one of my favorite movies. All right, I'll stop. Anyway, guys, thank you so much for coming by this week. I really enjoy doing this with you. I've really loved interacting with all of you. So if you have something that you would like to share with me in the comments, please do. And of course, like and subscribe because we'll be having more content. I'm going to be pushing the YouTube channel a whole bunch, so expect a lot more. Thanks for coming by, guys, and as always, long live the void.